All right, everyone. Just want to take a few minutes to go over some problems in writing that I'm seeing on various assignments um, that I will start being more and more harsh with as we move forward in the class. So I want to make sure that you understand these things and blow this up a little bit. Okay, so these are things that I've seen in multiple people's writing or questions that have been asked by more than one person that I think will maybe clarify some of the issues that people are having with their writing. The first, and one that I've been reasonably flexible with, I don't think I took any points off for anyone on this very first assignment, but that will change over time, is that you need to limit the fluff in your writing. So, what is fluff? Well, that would be any significant amount of writing that says things like, I think this bird's so cute. I chose this bird because when I was a little kid, I had a fun interaction with this bird. Or this bird is everyone's favorite bird. These sorts of sentences are fine in your journal or some other kind of writing like that, but they're not really appropriate in a scientific sense. In fact, they are implicit statements of bias most of the time, which is the opposite of what you're trying to achieve in scientific writing. So do not incorporate fluff into your writing. Um, Ultimately, sentences that you're writing that don't serve to answer the questions being presented to you are fluff. The second is to use proper citations. This has been was a big issue on the first set of assignments. So I had some people do things like they just wrote like McKinney 2026, and that's all, or like Wikipedia 2015, something silly like that. No one used Wikipedia that I can recall, but that's just a silly example. And that's all they put in their references section. That is not a proper citation. Um, MLA, APA, Chicago, you can even pick your favorite peer-reviewed journal and use its style guide. I don't care the specific style that you use, but it must be a proper citation with all the parts of a proper citation. So that includes the author, the date, the name of the title of the article, the name of the journal, the volume, the issue, and the page numbers. That is for a typical citation. Now, obviously, if it's not a peer-reviewed article, which you are required to have three of, by the way, but it's a book or something like that, which is an equally scholarly uh, document, a text like your textbook. That's that's totally fine. But then you cite it the way you would cite a book. Okay, you cannot just be like Cornell Handbook of Ornithology, 2018. I can't remember what the year is. That is not a proper citation. You can literally Google APA citation format or MLA citation format, anything like that, and get citations from those or citation information from those websites so that you can cite more properly in general, as long as you have the authors. In this case, in this example of this made up paper, this paper does not exist. Um, it's just a single author. If there were multiple authors, you'd have to include them all. But McKinney, comma, M, 2026, Birds of Mars, right? You have the name, the date, the name of the article, the journal that it's in, the uh, volume and issue, and those page numbers. If you have that stuff, you're probably well on your way to having a legitimate citation. Um, just pick one style of your choice, APA, MLA, Chicago, and stick with it. I would prefer APA or MLA, but I'm not incredibly picky about that, in all honesty. Um, a really big problem was in-text citations. There's an appropriate way to incorporate in-text citations into your work. And this is probably the biggest thing. You can't cite something in your references that isn't in the body of the text. So, for example, if I had, so let's just look at proper in-text citations. This species is known to regurgitate a pellet within 4 hours of consuming its prey. McKinney, 2026. That's a pretty standard way to do an in-text citation. Um, and what this is saying is that McKinney in 2026 wrote about this topic and discussed this in his paper. If I didn't include this part, right, if I got rid of that, boom, gone. But in my references, I have this citation, and McKinney 2026 doesn't show up anywhere else in my writing, then this should no longer be in my references. I must, if I have a paper cited in the references section, have it actually cited in the text. That must be true, or something is wrong. Some of you did that. Maybe you read something, but you forgot to put it in the in-text. I'm not really sure what happened there. I can tell you that if you continue to do that, it's going to become more and more of a problem. I will penalize you more and more for doing that. Again, you have to have 3 peer-reviewed citations. You can have as many citations as you want, but 3 of them should be peer-reviewed citations. This means journal articles. Many of you do not have 3 journal articles. The whole point is just to make you go out and read science. That's how you get better at being a scientist. You read science. Subheadings. So one student, and actually only one student out of all of you in that first week of assignments, broke your writing up into subheadings, and maybe you thought that wouldn't be appropriate. Subheadings are as appropriate as they are depending upon how you frame your writing. Subheadings can be very appropriate. So subheadings are just like, say I have a paragraph here about, I'm gonna write 2 paragraphs about feeding ecology of eastern screech owl. So I might say feeding ecology of eastern screech owl, and then paragraph, paragraph, and now I want to talk about say let's see, what might be another good thing to talk about, is how about mating behavior of eastern screech owl, and paragraph, whatever, however many paragraphs, right? You break your paper into sections that are discrete chunks of information that are robust enough to justify a subheading. Usually it's a couple paragraphs. If you do that, you can organize those subheadings and make a nice flow, a nice structure to your paper. And that might be easier for you to organize. Just remember, you don't have a subheading with a sentence or 2 underneath of it. It should have enough information to justify a subheading. The final thing I want to mention is that your citations do not count towards your page limit. Some people have, they gave me like 6 or 7 citations, which took more than half a page or a page up, and then they gave me very little content and gave me like this page of citations. Obviously, I would think that would be obvious that that's not writing, right? You're writing 1.5 to 3 pages. The citations are just there to support the writing. So you must have 1.5 to 3 pages of content, and then the citations. I will get more and more critical of that aspect of the writing as we move through the semester, these first couple weeks, as we've been getting rolling, and I've had the chance to get in and grade some of these things and see where problems were. I was honestly pretty lenient with a lot of these things, but that will change as we move forward, because I want you to get better at writing this kind of stuff. Obviously, if you have other questions about that, I think I have addressed here most of the questions that I received from you guys. If you have other questions, reach out to me, and if I have to, I'll make a whole other video. All right, have a good day.